You damn right. It is time for another recruiting hour because recruiting never stops. June is on the way, recruiting visits, all that good stuff. And you want to know if Texas is going to get the biggest guys. We're going to talk about that today. And oh, look, big surprise. MoneyB in the building early. MoneyB, every time I see that there's one or two people waiting really early, I assume one of them is you. So it's always good to see you getting started. We will get into some good Texas recruiting talk. Jason, how are we doing today? This is the first time I believe you and I will see. Well, no, we did the modcast together, but this is the first recruiting show we've done after your Vegas trip. Are you fully recovered and gotten rid of that Vegas jet lag yet?
Yeah, I'm fully recovered. It's funny, so recruiting never stops. I mean, I didn't do a lot of work in Vegas, but there was transfer portal stuff, and I'm texting people out in Vegas. At some point, I just need to put my phone away and just realize the world will go on without my recruiting updates. But I mentioned this the other day. I'm recovered from Vegas, Chad. I was coming home from Vegas on whatever it was, Friday. And I said, you know what? I'm a Vegas guy, dude. I go to Vegas a lot. But I said, I'm over Vegas, dude. I'm done. I think I'm done with Vegas for a while. I'm tired of losing money. It exhausts me. I beat the hell out of my body while I'm there. And now I'm thinking, when's my next chance to get back to Vegas? It took me a few days, and I'm already jonesing for my next Vegas trip. So
yep, that's it. That's what it'll do. Clayton jumped in the chat and gives us a hey guys, hook 'em. What's up, Clayton? Hope you are doing well. Jason, let's go ahead and jump right in. People can go to orangebloods.com and check out your Q&A article. We're gonna pick little pieces out of it and kind of give them a little primer today. And I've got some of these ready to go for a graphic and give us some discussion. But for those of you in the chat right now, if you want to jump in the specs chat and throw Jason a question, preferably with a super chat, because my old eyes don't see regular chats as well. But boy, they see super chats really well. They'll go right to the top of the list if you want to add a question. But let's start with this one, Jason, because it speaks right to the title. We've already got MoneyB thinking he knows who it is, but I want you to tell us the one recruit that the coaches cannot miss on in the 2025 class if you had to pick one.
Well, MoneyB, as usual, knows what he's talking about. So it is Michael Fusi for me, and it's a pretty easy choice. I mean, you've got Dorian Moore, Jonah Williams, those are elite players. But to me, Michael Fusi is the next Kelvin Banks. I think he's that kind of talent. Now, is he going to come in as a freshman and a true freshman and start? Well, probably not. Well, because they got the difference is now Texas doesn't need a true freshman to start, right? They've got some good young players in the pipeline there. I think Fusi, if I'm picking one, I think he's a franchise left tackle. Obviously, you could play him on the right side if he needed to in a pinch, but I think ultimately he's going to be a franchise left tackle for somebody. I just think he's an elite prospect at a position of need. So I think Michael Fusi to me is the can't miss prospect. And also, Chad, you're recruiting, and this is kind of the case with most of these guys, but it's really Texas, it's Oklahoma, it's Texas A&M. You got other schools that are involved there. Oregon he likes, and he likes Missouri. We keep talking about Missouri with these offensive linemen, but for my money, it's a 3-team race: Texas, Oklahoma, and now Texas A&M. So that's one you don't want to lose to one of your regional rivals, because this guy's an elite talent. There's a lot of good offensive linemen in the state, right? But to me, Fusi's on a whole other level. I thought that when I saw him in action 14 or so months ago at a camp, he was at a rivals camp and an Under Armour camp, not this spring, last spring. And dude, I never saw him lose a rep. And just looking at him, that guy is just built differently. I mean, honestly, he is a Kelvin Banks cookie cutter carbon copy almost. So I think I picked Michael Fusi as my one guy they can't miss on.
And yes, we will show everybody that MoneyB did jump in before the show started. So that's a big body. It has to be Fusi. MoneyB, we're trying to give you the little shadow question mark thing with the body, but you did look at body. The body type with Fusi and Dorian Moore is a little bit different. So I guess if you know you're recruiting, you knew what it wasn't there. We appreciate you, MoneyB, for that. So Fusi is the answer to that question for Jason. By the way, speaking of questions, Jason, somebody wants to know, what is your game of choice in Vegas?
Yeah, I saw that, Colby, and I need to change my game of choice because I got my ass kicked this time. But I've always been a blackjack guy.
Okay.
And listen, man, listen, I'm not an idiot, man. I play by the book. I know when to split, when to double, when to hit, when to stand, when to do it all. I don't play the silly side bets.
Mm-hmm.
I play it by the book. And if I ever have a question, if it's remotely close, I'll ask the dealer and they usually help you. But I play it by the book. But I play blackjack, and I don't know why, because I never get the cards that I should. Like, to the point the dealer's like, sorry, dude, this is kind of bad. You might want to walk away. But blackjack, and I love craps, dude. I love the craps table when you're at a hot table. So those are my two games of choice. Unless my wife's gambling with me, which is very rare. I usually gamble while she's either sleeping in the morning or sleeping at night. But if she wants to do some slots, of course, I'll sit down with her and do some slots and I'll do some video poker. Now, hell, I do a little bit of everything now that I talk about it.
Yeah, all of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not my strategy, and I know this is a recruiting show, but Chad, is when I'm going to Vegas, the best part about Vegas is I get the free drinks. So that's how I justify, hey, I just wasted $100 on gambling, but I got some free drinks out of it. So that's kind of a wash. If you go to the actual bar in the casino and just play that 25-cent video poker, load up on your free drinks, and then you're kind of set for the afternoon of the evening. Yeah, so
then you're good. By the way, we also have a chatter named Gabe who says, I live in Vegas, need to meet up and take you out for lunch the next time you're in town. So
Gabe, I will keep that in mind, dude. Next time I'm heading that way, we will talk about it. Remind me, because I'm terrible. I'll forget your name, but remind me next time, down the road, we'll talk about upcoming Vegas trip. You let me know, brother. We'll try to hang out.
There you go. Our man Chad jumps in and asks everybody to like the show. We appreciate you to like, subscribe, get your notifications. Thank you for that in advance. Colby also throws this in on Fusi, Jason. Doesn't he work out with an ex-Texas player? That should bode well for the good guys.
He does, Colby. Donald Hawkins, former Longhorn. Now, and that's another reason I'm favoring Texas in this one. There's a few reasons. But I'll tell you this, man, I don't get the impression D-Hawk is pushing him to Texas at all. I've never got that impression from Fusi. I've talked to Hawkins, and I just don't think that's the case. But it certainly doesn't hurt, right? It doesn't hurt having that, talking point and him talking about his highlights there. And, I was mentioning Fusi about, I don't know if he needs to come in and be a day one starter when you got someone like Trevor Gooseby waiting in the wings. But he's going to come in and I would think be in that 2-deep rotation right off the bat from wherever he goes. And I do like, I'm actually working on, for the viewers here, if you're an Orange Blood subscriber, I'm working on my recruiting board, which is a deal I do. And I basically put every player on the Texas board that they've offered if there's a legitimate interest, not guys that have lived, maybe live in New Jersey that have never visited. But if a guy has a legitimate interest, if he's visited, if he's really squarely on the radar, he's on my recruiting board. And I put percentages on there. And I've got Texas as the favorite. And I don't have it pulled up right now, but I do still have Texas as the favorite for Mike Fusi. So, training with Donald Hawkins doesn't hurt. He's got a great relationship with Kyle Flood. He's been to Austin a bunch. Texas actually was a little bit later than like Oklahoma was in offering him. So Oklahoma kind of jumped out to the early lead, but I think Texas has kind of taken over that lead. And I just keep saying this, when there are must-win recruitments, maybe 1 or 2 a year, Texas doesn't usually lose on those. And I'm putting Michael Fusi in that category. So just kind of based on history, based on little nuggets here and there, I'm picking Texas a little bit over Texas A&M and Oklahoma.
There you go. Oh, look at this. Look at MoneyB. $20 super chat to help replenish the Vegas fund. Jason, who is the most underrated recruit this year that no one is talking about? MoneyB is also a mind reader. We were literally about to go right to that. MoneyB, now I don't have to put up the other graphic. We'll use your super chat. Jason, most underrated recruit for you.
MoneyB is awesome. First off, thank you. And secondly, MoneyB, you could have saved $20 if you would have just waited 5 minutes, dude. But we certainly appreciate, the guy that I actually, the question we were going to talk about was the most underrated recruit. And I picked 3 of them, okay? But I'm going to highlight one first to answer MoneyB's question, the guy nobody's talking about. And I'm going with, I like the Caleb Chester cat, the defensive back out of Fort Bend Marshall. Rivals, I'm looking, has him as a 3-star, 5.7, so kind of a mid 3 stars, not even a really high, I guess fairly high really rated 3-star, but he's not getting the attention. Nobody's talking about this dude the way I think they should. I mean, listen, he's got official visits to Texas, to TCU, to LSU, to Texas A&M, to Arkansas. So it's not like it's Texas versus, North Texas and with all due respect to, the Baylors of the world. I mean, this is a big boy recruitment. And the guy, he's got length, Caleb does. He's 6'2", 175 pounds. He can play at cornerback. He can play, he feels like he can be a nickel. He can play at safety. So to me, man, and this is a guy the Texas staff has really targeted. You and I've talked about him before, Chad. I did not it's not letting me put in a future cast for some reason. I was going to. I don't remember if I ever did, but it's not showing if I did, because I wrote about him in my 3-2-1 column a while back. And I said, hey, this is a guy people need to be talking about. You need to have him on your radar. This is a really good player. Check out the film. He's big. He's athletic. He can do a little bit of everything in the defensive backfield. I think Texas has a really, really good chance to land Caleb Chester as well.
MoneyB, thank you so much for that $20 super chat. Again, those will go right to the top of the list like that one just did. We also have another question coming in. Let's take a breath here and let you hear about Specs. Remember, whatever you're getting ready for, Specs can get you all stocked up. There's an app, too. I think they have a fancy phone thing. She'll show you. Here it is.
Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs. Cheers to savings.
You see how I did that thing where I pretended like I didn't know about the app? I've used that's called acting. That is high-level acting.
I've got it on my phone too. I don't know why, and they can't figure it out. And it doesn't recognize my phone number. I don't know why. Hey, Specs, I love it. It's right down the road. I'm there frequently, probably more than I should be, but that damn app does not work for me for some reason, Chad.
Yeah, eventually I got in trouble at Specs so much they said they forgot my phone number. No, that's not that is not what happened. But yes, I am on that app fairly often, and definitely in a Specs fairly often. All right, here's one coming in from again from our guy Chad. Jason says, "What's up with the running back Jordan Davidson from Cali? I saw he set up 4 OVs for the summer, but Texas was not among them."
Yeah, this is one. I'm pretty sure I broke this story a few weeks ago with the help of Adam Gorney, our national analyst out of Cali. But Texas is not in the picture for Jordan Davidson. There was some scuttlebutt that Adam Gorney had reported that, hey, maybe Texas was fading. Well, in checking around a few weeks ago, Texas wasn't just fading. They were out. They were 100% eliminated, not in the mix at all. I kicked the tires in Austin, right? Shake some trees in Austin. Hey, what's going on here? And I was told, hey, he can say what he wants, but Texas moved on. Texas pulled the plug on that one and moved on. Now, listen, Texas has one running back commitment, Ricky Stewart. James Simon is going to announce his decision later this month. I feel pretty good about Texas. In fact, behind the curtains, I'm flying to Vegas last Monday. So 9 days ago, I had hour and a half to kill at the airport. I wrote a James Simon commitment story and loaded it up in our Orange Blitz admin. So in case he committed while I was stumbling around on the Vegas Strip, right? So I think that one looks good. I think Texas has their 2 running back targets. I think there were some conversations with Jordan Davidson, like, hey, brother, this is a stacked room, and it's always going to be when Tashard's choice there. And if you can't handle that and come in with big recruits in front of you and behind you, and talented youngsters on the current roster, then maybe it's best both sides go their separate way. So Texas, what I'm told, is kind of made the first move there to separate from Jordan Davidson. And I want to say this: I love Jordan Davidson, dude. I think he's an awesome kid. I think he's a great player. He's an awesome kid. His family's amazing. People at Texas said, hey, or people inside the program, sources were like, hey, we wish him nothing but the best. There's no ill will there. It just didn't work out. I mean, I'll be rooting for Jordan Davidson wherever he winds up, but it will not be Austin, Texas.
There you go, Chad. Thank you for that. More questions are coming in. We will line those up. So get us some questions if you have them. Also, Jason, I wanted to give everybody a little taste of the Q&A article, because one of the questions you got in was somebody just throwing out for you, hey, gut feeling, does Texas get this guy? Does Texas get this guy? And just kind of went going down the list. So I wanted to go through a few of these because there's a name right here at the top that everybody is wanting to know about. So let's start with this. Gut feeling, does Texas land the players? And they went Moore and Lockett, trying to get 2 for 1.
Yeah, Dorian Moore and Khalil Lockett. So they're asking me, do they land one of the one of those two? Okay, the way I interpreted that question, and I said yes. I don't feel great necessarily about Texas's chances with Khalil Lockett, just because. Mostly, I say that because he doesn't tip his hand. It's hard. He's a hard guy to read. So I'm not saying Texas might not be the team to beat in his mind. I don't know though. Khalil is pretty private and pretty guarded with that kind of stuff. So, but I know Texas is really in the mix there. Okay, he's going to take an official visit. Dorian Moore, of course, committed to LSU. I'm on record as saying I think Texas is going to flip him. I'm not backtracking on that, but maybe my confidence has dwindled a little bit from where it was. I guess I've been in mid-March, I think, when I said that. So maybe my confidence has dwindled a little bit, but I'm not backing off on that statement. So I'm playing the numbers there on those two. One of the two. Do I think Texas gets one of the two? The answer is yes. Do I think they can get both of them? I do. I think they can get both. I would probably bet against that happening, but it's a possibility. But I do think they get at least one of the two.
Gotcha. All right. As long as we're there, and you just mentioned him, let's go to Fusi. Your gut feeling: does Texas land Michael Fusi? I know you've been saying yes. Are you still there?
I've been saying yes for a long time on Fusi, and I am still there. For the longest time, it was Texas and Oklahoma. Let me back it up. Like I said, when I saw him, 14 months ago, it was all Oklahoma. I felt really confident saying Oklahoma is the team to beat. Okay. And then it switched about 6 months later. He starts visiting Texas. And I'm like, okay, I think it's going to be Texas. But I said, it's going to be either Texas or Oklahoma. All this other peripheral stuff, the Oregons, the Missouris, the Michigans, all these other places he's visited. I said, those are just kind of window dressing. I think it's Texas or Oklahoma. Well, this spring, he visited Texas A&M a lot. And I've talked to people in this industry who have ties to Texas A&M, or connections, I should say, at Texas A&M. There's a level of confidence in College Station that they're going to land Michael Fusi. I'm not changing my pick. I still think it's going to be Texas, but it's a battle. It's a 3-team battle right now, and he's going to take – it won't just be those three. He'll take other visits, but I do think Texas lands Michael Fusi in the end. I'm still sticking with that pick.
Interesting. Okay. Let's pop back to the chat here. We had a couple in, and actually a couple of folks wanting to know about Texas commits and kind of updates, the couple guys on that list. So let's get MoneyB's. Anything new on Brandon Brown?
I love MoneyB because the question before he asked about underrated was that you were going to ask, like, who are the most underrated recruits? And I mentioned Caleb Chester. Obviously, we talked about him. The other two, I told you I had three. One was Brandon Brown and one was Lance Jackson, the two Texas commitments. I mean, Lance Jackson is a Rivals 150 guy. He's a 4-star, 5.9 rated. He actually dropped in the last Rivals rankings. He dropped to 128. I don't get it, man. He was at 118 when he committed to Texas. I thought he was going to shoot up like around the national top 50. He actually dropped to 128. I don't get it, dude. I don't get it. And I'm not one that gets upset and bitches and moans about rankings, because I get it. They're subjective, and 10 different people can have 10 different opinions, but this one's a no-brainer, man. Lance Jackson, in my opinion, is significantly underrated by Rivals.com. And the other one I think is underrated is Brandon Brown. Rivals has him as a 4-star, but he's kind of a mid 4-star. He's not even the Rivals 250, much less the Rivals 100. Dude, again, I don't get it. He's got a Texas visit. He's got Tennessee. I know he's, Florida State's in the mix there. I mean, there's a lot of schools. Miami, I think. Texas is going to have to continue to fight for him. LSU with Bo Davis is now in the mix there. So nothing terribly new. MoneyB, we'll see when he starts taking these official visits how things pan out. He did finally visit Texas back in April, I believe it was. He did take an unofficial visit to Texas. He's coming in for his official visit. That'll be big, man. He's really close with his family. So Texas needs to win over Brandon Brown and his family, okay, including his mother, who I've communicated with. She did like that first visit, but you get a different feel for an official visit. So, but back, why I think he's underrated. Again, man, put on the film, dude. He's a wrecking ball, man, out there in the offensive backfield. It's fun film to watch. We've talked about Khalil Lockett's film, Chad. You and I have. You need to go watch Brandon Brown's film. It's fun. Okay. For interior defensive lineman, you're like, holy crap, he is just throwing people around. So, I talked to the people that do the Rivals rankings out of Florida, and they said, okay, maybe he's a little bit undersized by traditional standards. He's not playing the highest end of the talent pool in Florida. But I don't care. The way that guy moves and just gets around, to me, he's got some raw natural ability that you just can't teach. And the size thing, okay, we got him at 6'1", 285. He's not exactly 5'10" out there. I mean, we look at what Byron Murphy was able to do here in Austin. So I think Brandon Brown is immensely underrated. I wish he would have shown up to some camps and maybe proven that point. I think he could have helped himself this spring had he showed up to a couple camps and showed people like, hey, I can do it against the best of the best. But we didn't get to see that. But I think he's a really good player. I do think Texas is going to have to really work to hang on to his commitment in money. I'm going to make you a promise. It probably won't happen this week. We're already Wednesday, but I will make it a priority to try. Brandon's kind of hit or miss. Okay. He doesn't do a lot of interviews. Sometimes he will, though. Every once in a while he'll pick up for me, or I'll try to reach out to his mom, but I'll make it a point, money, to try to get an update on Brandon, a one-on-one update from Brandon before we do this show next week.
MoneyB, thank you for that. And then Rand had already thrown in the name Lance Jackson, kind of wanting to hear about him. So you kind of covered both of those, talking about those guys both being underrated. And just for the record, would Lance also be the type of guy you think, is it going to be a down to the end kind of recruitment for Texas?
No.
Who's interested, or is he a lock in?
He's locked in. He's a complete opposite of a guy like Brandon Brown or Dorian Moore, the guys we've been talking about. Lance said, hey, I'm taking Texas official visit. That's it. I'm done. I'm not taking any more. Lance, is also a tremendous baseball player. He did suffer an injury, and I need to check in with him to see how the rehab is going. But I mean, it's nothing that's going to bother him long term. But no, Lance is 100% dialed in, locked in with Texas. He would sign tomorrow if he could, Chad.
There you go, Rand. Hopefully that answers your question. Thank you all for throwing the chats in. Again, throw us a super chat or chat. Super chats are preferred, but yeah, get your questions in there if you want. Q&A is there at orangebloods.com. Let me just throw up a QR code real quick here to remind you. We're sitting here on a Wednesday recording. That means tomorrow night, Thursday nights, always a war room night at orangebloods.com. Breakdowns all over the place. You want a full breakdown from Alex Dunlap on the latest Longhorn commit, and I'll get Jason to talk about him in a second too. That is at orangebloods.com, along with the Q&A article that Jason just put up there. So we're giving you little pieces of it today to give you a feel. Jason, let's go back to gut feeling, and this will go to a line of scrimmage discussion for Haywood and Rogers. This is both defensive line, or is this one of each side? Remind me.
Those are both offensive linemen.
Both O-line. Okay, my bad.
So Lamont Rogers and Ty Haywood, I went with no. I don't think Texas is going to get either one of those. And the first one, Ty Haywood out of Denton Ryan's pretty easy. Texas really isn't even recruiting him. I mean, they talk to him a little bit, and that shocks a lot of people when I say that or when I've reported that. But, I talked to Ty at the Under Armour camp, and he said at that time, he's like, hey, I'm going to go visit Texas this spring. It never happened. He wasn't really in communication. It wasn't like Kyle Flood was hitting him up all the time. He was talking to like a graduate assistant. So, you can just kind of tell like, okay, he's not quite the priority some of these other guys are. So no on Haywood. Lamont Rogers, I mean, Texas is in the mix there, but Lamont's flat out told me, I mean, we mentioned Missouri earlier with Fusi. He flat out told me this spring, hey, Missouri is his favorite team right now. Now that could change. Schools like Oklahoma are going to be heavily involved there. Obviously Missouri, like I said, I think Texas is in the mix there. Would it shock me if they got Lamont Rogers? No, wouldn't shock me. But if I'm picking Texas to get Fusi, I don't know that they'd also get Lamont Rogers. And I mean, I got to take Lamont, at face value when he tells me, hey, Missouri is the team to beat. Well, Missouri is probably the team to beat. So I would pick no on Lamont Rogers and Ty Haywood.
Now, Jason, you should know I was painting the fans a burnt orange kind of picture this week with the idea that Lamont Rogers comes in on the 14th on an official visit, falls in love with Texas, he commits. That affects Fusi the next week. He commits, and the Longhorns end up with both of them. That was the movie I was laying out. You're telling me you're not green lighting that movie?
I'll green light it if people buy tickets for it. Hey, yeah, what the hell? I'm that way. We'll green light that, sure. And hey, stranger things have happened, Chad. We've seen, especially along offensive line recruiting, when these guys come in for their official visits. for whatever reason with these offensive linemen, things usually move pretty quickly. So,
Yeah.
And Lamont said, like, he's probably going to commit shortly after these official visits. Fusi, he's a little bit of a wild card. He's my dude. I love Michael Fusi. I love talking to him. He's always super generous with me. But Fusi likes to have a little fun. I think he would admit that. He likes to have a little fun with the process. Okay. He might drag things out a little bit longer just to have a little fun. But, we'll see. We're talking teenagers here, so all bets are off, right?
Gotcha. Now, before I get to this next one, I also threw out the idea that Riley Pettyjohn coming in on the 14th felt important to me because of the position, because of how good he is. How important for you is that if he comes in on the 14th and has a really good impression?
Yeah, I mean, Texas has already made a really good impression on Riley and his family, for that matter. I've got Texas as the pick there, but there are some other schools. I mean, he's going to visit other schools, including he likes USC and a couple others. But yeah, I mean, I would expect Riley's been on campus a few times. The last being he didn't come in for the spring game. All these visits are blurring together. That was a busy month of April, but I think he came in that weekend of the 6th or the 13th. I can't remember which one, but he's been on campus a bunch. Riley Pettyjohn has. Texas has already made a really strong impression there. They'll do it again on the official visit. I think Texas is the team to beat there.
Gotcha. All right, Jason, let's go back to some gut feelings here from the Q&A. They wanted to know about Brew. What's the update?
I do love Brews. So, are we talking beer here? What are we talking
about? Sorry, not Brews.
Okay.
Brew, individual, okay. The player. It's Dorian Brew. Is that
Dorian
right?
Brew, yeah. He's a DB out of Conroe. I went with no on Dorian, and it's a bit of a guess. Okay, I mean, these are all guesses to some degree, right? So, but Dorian Brew is really, he doesn't talk much. He doesn't tip his hand much at all. He doesn't really do interviews, so he's a hard guy to read. I know he likes Texas, and you talk to people at his school and they're like, oh, no, he really likes Texas. But, he moved, let me make sure, he went from Ohio to Conroe. His mom, I believe, was an athlete at Ohio State. His dad's has LSU ties. So, I still think it's probably going to be Ohio State or LSU, but I'll be honest when I tell you I don't have a great feel on Dorian Brew, but I did pick against Texas in that one.
Gotcha. Okay, let me see if I can do this, Jason. I think I had this mixed up with another one. I think both of these guys are defensive linemen. I think it's DJ Sanders, Belleville, Zion Williams, Lufkin. Am I right?
Yes, that is absolutely right. You nailed it. And my answer to that is yes. I think Texas lands one of those two, and I would strongly lean to Zion Williams right now. DJ Sanders, again, man, he's a bit of a wild card. He doesn't do many interviews at all. I can't remember the last time I've seen that he actually did an interview. I've talked to his coach, so I keep in contact with his coach. He likes Texas a lot. He's got a Texas official visit set up. He came up in the spring for a Texas visit. I just don't think I would pick Texas for DJ Sanders. There's a lot of Texas A&M buzz, which he denies. Okay, his coach told me, he's like, hey, man, that's almost comical. He said DJ literally laughed at some of these predictions. 75% of him prediction for him to go to A&M. He said we sat here and read these together and laughed about them. So, but he's a small town guy. Belleville's fairly close to College Station. It kind of makes sense, right? I mean, I think A&M will be a big player there. But I do think Texas is in a really good spot for Zion Williams out of Lufkin. So I said yes. I think Texas gets 1 out of 2. And I'm certainly not eliminating Texas. I'm not saying Texas doesn't have a chance with DJ Sanders, but of those two, I'd probably lean towards Zion Williams.
Yeah, DJ Sanders' film is kind of fun to watch too. He's that's a man among boys kind of stuff there with the smaller school there. All right, we got one more of these, Jason. I'll admit I know one of these names, I think, and not the other one though. Gut feeling on Townsen and Armstrong. I'm assuming that's Keoti Armstrong, the tight end. Who's Townsen?
Nick Townsen is another tight end out of Spring Decaney down in the Houston area. And I said yes, okay, and people aren't going to like my answer, but I don't think it's going to be Texas for Keoti Armstrong. I don't know why. He says he's pretty open. I think it's going to come down to Texas and Texas A&M. I just know in my conversations with him, and I've talked to him in person a few times, and going back to the first time was actually roughly a year ago. It was at the state 7-on-7 tournament in College Station. he just kind of had an A&M vibe. I don't know how to describe it. He smiled more when mentioning A&M. His answers were longer when I asked about A&M versus Texas.
Did he sway back and forth?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So maybe when that Aggie pin he had on, I don't know. But Texas did land his teammate there, Anthony Smith, who at the time was close to committing to A&M whenever I first interviewed Chiotti last summer. So maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know. But, I don't know. I mean, I think Texas has a really good shot there. But I just think in the end, it might not fall Texas's way. Nick Townsen is a guy that I've been banging my head on the wall trying to get on the phone, and I just can't connect with him. So, but, Texas needs a second tight end. I think Texas is going to pull out the stops to win that. He's got an Arizona State official visit. He's supposed to show up in Austin next month. So I think Texas will get one of the two. I think it's close enough on Chiotti. And then I think they're in a pretty good spot with Nick Townsen that I feel they'll get one of those two. If I'm guessing, I'd probably go Townsen, but he's been a tough guy for me to pin down for an update.
There you go. And we had somebody in the chat asking about actually Townsen and Armstrong. So I'm glad we got to that, which hopefully that'll take care of your chat questions. There are a couple more here. And I want to get Jason to talk about Jackson Christian, the new commit in 2025. But before that, MoneyB with an interesting question. Does UT use any of the former players in recruiting? Assume this would mainly occur on unofficial visits and official visits.
Not really. I mean, you got guys like Michael Huff that are on staff. Of course, he'll be around.
If he just shows up in one of those cutoff shirts, they'll at least know what the weight program's all about.
Oh my goodness, yeah, and I don't think Huff ever wears a shirt or a sleeve.
No sleeves.
Yeah. Does Blake Gideon count? Right. Yeah. But you'll see it where you see more of that MoneyB is events like just spring practices or the spring game, like it's spring game, and Pettyjohn was there. I mean, Alex Okafor was there. There was a bunch of guys. Marquise Goodwin. Several guys were there. I'm trying to think of the defensive lineman from Louisiana that played with the Saints. I'm drawing a blank on his name, but he was there.
Malcolm Brown?
No, it wasn't Malcolm Brown. The defensive end, and somebody in the chat will help me. My brain's flustered today, but the answer to that, MoneyB, is you'll see a lot of those guys kind of around practices and things. And it'll happen again in fall camp. Derek Johnson's out there. Vince Young. Thank you, MoneyB. Malcolm Roach is the answer.
Malcolm Roach. There you go.
Vince Young comes out to practice. I mean, you see a lot of these guys out there. So, it's cool to see those guys around, and I'm sure they'll talk to these recruits and, whisper nice things to them about their experiences in Austin. But I don't think Texas necessarily uses those guys as a recruiting tactic.
All right, a couple more quick ones, Jason, here, and I'll get you to talk about Christian. Antoine says, why not more of a push for Emmanuel Choice?
It's a good question. He's a big, good-looking receiver that can run out of Lancaster.
There it is.
But he's just, Texas has prioritized other receivers is the pretty simple answer there. I saw Emmanuel at the Texas Relays. It was at a track meet. I talked to him there. Where's the state track meet? I think it was Texas Relays. And, he mentioned to me at that time, I'm still talking to Texas. I still talk to Chris Jackson, but you could tell it was just kind of I would call it minimal contact. He's got official visits set up to 5 other places. And Texas is not one of those places. So I just think Texas has prioritized other receivers, and frankly, they're in a pretty good spot with several of those other receivers. So I think Emmanuel's just kind of on the outside looking in, but he's a good player. He'll find a good spot for himself, and he'll have some good opportunities.
Jason, same chatter wants to know about a player. I haven't heard this name, but I'm going to love a name like this. Any news on the Suede Griffin front? Tell me about this young man.
I don't even know. I'm trying to find Suede. That's Cedric Griffin's kid.
Okay.
Yeah, not really. Not in terms of in terms of Texas. I know Texas Tech offered him really early. There seemed to be a lot of buzz early on there. Honestly, Antoine, not really on my radar. Suede isn't, because Texas hasn't really shown a big interest there or much of an interest at all. But I know Texas Tech was on him early, and there was a lot of Texas Tech buzz, so I'd keep it on Texas Tech there.
And by the way, to said Griffin, chef's kiss on that name. Well done. Suede spelled like, if that's actually how they're spelling the name, a little bit of smoothness with the name itself, a little bit of country with the way you're spelling it. Well done, Cedric Griffin. Well done. I'm going to be rooting for that one. I always root for a good name too.
He's got Arizona State, Minnesota, Texas Tech now.
Okay.
Again, I haven't heard any buzz other than Texas Tech was the early team that people were talking about. They were, I believe, his first offer. And in fact, I remember said Griffin tweeting on whenever like guns up and all this pro Texas Tech stuff. Oh, that just felt odd. But yeah, I think Texas Tech might be a team to watch here if they're going to push for his commitment.
All right, so Jason, before we get out of here, let me have you talk about Jackson Christian. He became the 7th member of the 2025 class, the big lineman out of PNG. Speaking of film that was fun to watch, I enjoyed watching that film because 6'5" isn't you can't walk on every high school campus and say, show me all your 6'5" offensive linemen. I enjoyed watching it. What do you think of Jackson Christian?
I think he's a really good player. I think, he's a guy that you can bring in. He's probably going to, take a year or two to be ready. He can play at tackle. I think he's probably going to be more of an interior guy, but I think he can play right tackle for you if you need him to. He's got that kind of frame and he's got that kind of athleticism. He's out of Port Neches Groves, a really powerful program. They won the state championship last year. He had been to Texas a bunch. In fact, I put my future cast in. Let me look at this. So I put it in. Well, it was back in March, so it was not that long ago, actually. So a couple months ago. But, I thought going back to last year, I was like, man, this guy's going to wind up at Texas. But then he started visiting A&M a little bit, or not a little bit, a few times. And there was a lot of buzz about A&M. But then he came back to Texas in the spring a couple of times. He came in for a scrimmage, and he came back for a practice. And at that point, I was like, okay, I think this one's going to go Texas's way. And thankfully, I got a tip because Jackson Christian, awesome kid. Like when you talk to him, dude, I'm like, hey, you're like a pro at this. Why don't you do more interviews? But he just doesn't do many interviews. He doesn't do much social media stuff. Just kind of stays to himself. But I got a tip on, was it Monday? My days are so screwed up, Chad. So that was 2 days ago. So that was Monday. Yes, thank you. I got a tip on Monday. Hey, he committed. Be ready. It's probably going to come out Monday night, Tuesday morning. So if you pay attention to my Twitter feed, I put the little gif of Jim Carrey hacking on the keyboard, right, from Bruce Almighty. So I was like, that's me right now. So I got scrambling and thankful I was able to whip up a quick commitment story and had it ready. Committed Monday night. Kyle Flood had been by his school that day. They talked that night. He went ahead and made it official that night. So good pickup for Texas. Anytime you can beat Texas A&M in a head-to-head battle, that's a nice win. Texas Tech was also involved there, but it was really Texas and Texas A&M. I mean, Jackson told me as much. He said it's probably going to be one of those two schools. Well, 2 months later, not even 2 months, I'm sorry, about a month later, Texas winds up being the choice.
There you go. By the way, speaking of tips, how about Rand throwing us a tip? $9.99 super chat. Yeah. Just thanks for the info, guys. Rand, thank you so much for that super chat. It is definitely appreciated. Also, MoneyB is just trying to make it even better for me. I think it's pronounced Sway D. What? Swady Griffin? That might be even better. That's incredible. And real quick, Jason, Justin wanted to know, incoming transfer. This will get you ready for the Outsiders tonight. Which incoming transfer do you think will have the biggest impact this year?
Yeah, I've got to brush up on my transfers. There have been so many of them. But I'd probably go with, I still think it might be Silas Bolden, the receiver out of Oregon State, who's not here yet. But that receiver room's really stacked. He's really talented. You can find creative ways to get him the ball. Or the cornerback who just committed out of Cali, San Jose State. Yeah. That guy could be a day one starter for you. So I would probably lean to one of those two.
There you go. Justin, we appreciate it. Thank you for that preview in a way, because Jason is going to jump on with us tonight for the Outsiders. We told him it's a What Are You Drinking Wednesday with the Outsiders, and he was interested in that. So we're going to see what happens in that house when the daytime goes away. We'll see if there's a disco ball in there or, fireworks or whatever. But Jason's going to join us for a What Are You Drinking Wednesday and talk transfers. Chance and Bo and Jason and the crew want to know about the latest transfers, and is Texas done? We'll just talk about is this it? Is there a couple more spots? And we'll get Jason's thoughts on that. That's tonight at 8:30 on Orange Bloods Live. And again, want to direct you over to orangebloods.com for the Q&A article. It's some of what we discussed here today, but it's a lot more of questions that get thrown to Jason. And every week or so, he goes back through and tries to answer all of your questions. So also feel free to continue to throw those questions at Jason. Do you want to is there a particular way you would tell them this week, Jason, to get them the questions, or do they already know?
Yeah, they usually just email them to me or send them to me on Orange Blood's message board. MoneyB with another super chat, by the way, before we get out the door here.
Oh, look at that. Hang on. MoneyB, $10 super chat. I'm back. Are there any recruits, i.e. Colin Simmons, that have pulled with this current class?
I'm assuming he means have pull with this current class.
Oh, I see. He didn't mean the
think that's
ED.
what he
Yeah.
means.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know that there's a Colin Simmons type. I think if Texas could get DeCorian Moore, that would certainly maybe have a ripple effect.
I think MoneyB was trying to do a broad version. What MoneyB wants to know is, do you know if Colin Simmons and DeCorian Moore are buddies? I think that's what he wants.
There is that, yeah. But I think if they could flip DeCorian, I think that would more so than DeCorian's personality. And don't get me wrong, he's likable, but it just would kind of create some recruiting momentum. KJ Lacey's a very likable guy. He talks to a lot of guys. Another one, man, I mean, he's really personable. I don't know that he's as active. And listen, he's not Arch Manning. He's not Colin Simmons. But Fusi's really personable. I think he could, kind of help get some steam going there. So, Lance Jackson's a guy that's recruiting for Texas. But I don't know that I'd put any of those dudes on the level of Colin Simmons, and certainly not on the level of what Arch was able to do a couple of years ago.
There you go. MoneyB, thank you so much for that $10 super chat. We do appreciate it. All right, we will wrap it up with that. I'll go ahead and leave the QR code up for you. Check out orangebloods.com. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and getting your notifications. We are closing in on the football season fast, and recruiting never stops. So that's why we bring you the recruiting hour twice a week, and you'll get the very latest at orangebloods.com when something breaks. So until next Monday at 4:00 for your next recruiting hour, everybody have a good rest of your week. Stay safe out there, and we'll come back and do it again next time. It's Orange Bloods Live. Y'all